Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our guest speakers tonight. First Minister of Scotland, Alex Salmond, Ayatollah Dr. Mohsen Araki, Joanne Lamont, Rory Nicholson, Archbishop Emeritus Mario Joseph Conti, Dr. Kamal Halbawi, Dr. Maureen Sear, Abdul Hassan Al Masoud, Mr. Azam Mohammed. Please welcome them with a round of applause. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful, all praise and thanks is due to Him. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you all. Welcome to tonight's prestigious event. My name is Ahmed Khoyer and my co-host is Sweba Majid Khan. And we are both privileged to take you through tonight's proceedings. For both of us, it is an enormous privilege to be asked by the Ahlul Bayt Society of Scotland to host this event, building on the success of last year's event. We hope to garnish the evening with some anecdotes and sayings from the Holy Quran and the Ahlul Bayt, peace be upon them all. There's a lot to get through, but God willing, we will endeavour to make the evening one as smooth as possible. Just some house rules quickly. Fire exits are quite clearly marked on the sides there with the doors with the green man, so just follow the green man and you'll be fine. In terms of the any other issues in terms of the toilets will be on your entrance from the right-hand side and also on the left. On your tables, just to inform you that there's a couple of copies of the program for tonight, and as well as a feedback list, which we will take very seriously for us to build on, as well as an email list for those who have probably come for their first visit to such a gathering. I'm going to give an introduction on peace, because the conference today is built centers around peace and unity. So why are we here? As you'll have noticed, the title of this evening is Peace and Unity. And these are essentially two huge pillars that will form the foundation of tonight's event. The words Islam and peace come from the same Arabic root word in salima. So we can say that Islam and peace are twins. Some Muslims fall into the habit of sending their salam to anyone they meet, but now that the world, and especially here in Scotland, understands its meaning of peace, it has thus become part of the vocabulary. In Islamic ideology, if we were to study peace, then we have to start with justice. For without justice, there is no peace. So when everyone understands each other's rights and their duties to one another, then only peace can reign. This peace will be a balance, an equilibrium filled with harmony. The Holy Quran even refers to our ultimate destination after our passage in this life as a place of peace. In chapter 6, verse 1-7, it says, "They shall have the abode of peace with their Lord." And in chapter 10, verse 125, and Allah invites us to the abode of peace. Who is our inspiration for tonight? Well, only a few people in history have been recorded as the very bastions of justice. This is where the Ahlul Bayt, the Holy Prophet's household, come in. After the Prophet's death, they continued to implement the teachings of the Holy Prophet in a very hostile environment in the Middle East, how things never change. Amongst these people are those who never sidestepped oppression and embodied the Prophet's impeccable morals and manners. One glorious light from which the Ahlul Bayt originate is the Prophet's daughter, Fatima az-Zahra, peace be upon her, who alongside Mary, mother of Jesus, are amongst the most purified women to have ever graced the planet Earth. The Prophet said, "Fatima is from me, and whoever angers her angers me, because any anger she would have would be on the grounds of misjustice and misjustice alone." Fatima married a man who's regarded by even those not partial to any faith as the voice of human justice, Imam Ali ibn Abu Talib, a man whose words are noted in a UN Charter for Human Rights. We are currently on the eve of the Islamic month of Muharram, a very poignant time for many Muslims. The grandson of the Holy Prophet and son of Fatima was killed in this month in the most brutal of fashion by a regime that sought to oppress the justice of Islam. We have many examples of these despotic regimes throughout history and even now, but the legacy of the just will always be remembered, whilst others will be remembered for their misdeeds. So let us always remember to be on the side of the just regardless of any religious, racial, or cultural affiliations. Then we can start to target the enemies of peace in the most appropriate manner. The organizers of this event seek not to dominate, but simply to facilitate a platform for speakers to come forward and talk about peace and unity. As you will notice, many different organizations were asked to come and participate, and many different people are going to be represented on this very platform tonight. My co-host is Sweba Majid Khan, so please welcome her. She is the current Vice President of the Muslim Youth League of Sisters.
Thank you for that, Brother Ahmed. Dear respected guests, I greet you with the Islamic greeting. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. May peace be upon you all. In the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful, peace and blessings upon Allah's messenger, his progeny and companions. So as Brother Ahmed said, I would be just doing a brief introduction to unity, which is one of the prevalent teachings within Islam. And this was taught to us by the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, at every stage of his life. Therefore, it is a great pleasure to announce that tonight, amongst us, we have members from various faith communities, working professionals, politicians and dignitaries, and our respected countless leaders and board members of mosques from all over Scotland. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank you all for gracing us with your presence here tonight. So coming back to the topic at hand, unity, the Holy Quran states, and this is in chapter 49, verse number 13, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Almighty Allah states, O people, we created you from a male and a female and divided you into large peoples and tribes so that you might recognize one another. Surely the most honorable amongst you in the sight of Allah is he who fears Allah the most. Certainly Allah is all-knowing and all-aware. Now this verse basically states that the whole of mankind came from one male and one female, namely Adam and Eve. And by making mankind aware of this, Allah Almighty has shown us that all are equal, and upholding this principle, when the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, established the state of Medina, he ensured that the minorities, which were the non-Muslims, were given their rights as well. Due to the lack of time, I will not be going into detail regarding the Constitution of Medina, but what I would like to do is I would just like to share with you the introduction to the Constitution as per the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. It stated, this is a constitutional document from Muhammad, the Ummi Prophet, to all the believers and Muslims from Quraysh who have emigrated, and Yathrib, and those non-Muslim tribes who follow them, join them and will fight them. They are all henceforth one community besides the rest mankind. So the basis of the real Islamic state was unity between the Muslims and the non-Muslims, and religious freedom of the Abrahamic faiths was ensured as well. So before we commence tonight's program, we would like to start with a recitation of the Holy Quran. And for this, I would like to invite an Al-Azhar University graduate, Sheikh Hassan Rabbani, to open proceedings with the blessed words of Almighty Allah. He is currently studying philosophy at the University of Glasgow, and he will be reciting some verses from chapter 49, and there will be a translation on the screen there so that you can follow that as well in English. Thank you. Sheikh Hassan Rabbani.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إنما المؤمنون إخوة فأصلحوا بين أخويكم واتقوا الله لعلكم ترحمون. يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا يسخر قوم من قوم عسى أن يكونوا خيرا منهم ولا نساء من نساء عسى أن يكن خيرا منهن ولا تلمزوا أنفسكم ولا تنابزوا بالألقاب بئس الاسم الفسوق بعد الإيمان ومن لم يتب فأولئك هم الظالمون يا أيها الذين آمنوا اجتنبوا كثيرا من الظن إن بعد الظن إثم ولا تجسسوا ولا يغتب بعضكم بعضا أيحب أحدكم أن يأكل لحم أخيه ميتا فكرهتموه واتقوا الله إن الله تواب رحيم يا أيها الناس إنا خلقناكم من ذكر وأنثى وجعلناكم شعوبا وقبائل لتعارفوا إن أكرمكم عند الله أتقاكم إن الله عليم خبير صدق الله العظيم.
That was Sheikh Hassan Rabbani Al-Azhari enlightening us with the blessed recitation of the Holy Quran. Thank you for that, Sheikh. My next guest here today is, just to firstly confirm that Lord Provost Councillor Sadie Doherty couldn't be with us this evening as she is currently abroad. So instead we are delighted to have Bailey Fariha Thomas, who will welcome tonight's guests. Bailey Fariha Thomas is a Scottish Labour councillor for Govan, and it is a pleasure to have her here with us today. Thank you.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. First Minister, Leader of the Council, members of the clergy, distinguished guests from Glasgow and beyond, ladies and gentlemen. It's my great pleasure on behalf of the Lord Provost Sadie Doherty to attend the Al Bayt Society's second Peace and Unity event. To all of you, I want to express my gratitude for your effort in putting on an event such as this. I'm proud that Glasgow is generally viewed as a tolerant and multicultural, multi-faith society. We have second and third generation families from around the globe, including Irish, Italian, Greek, Chinese, Pakistani, Iraqi, Iranian, and so on and so on and so on. Indeed, it's within Glasgow's schools that this multiculturalism is most keenly demonstrated, with more than 100 different languages spoken by pupils with English as their second language. Scotland and Glasgow's diversity and tolerance is what makes us stronger and richer at all levels of society. To all of you who have made your home here, we are delighted to have you and are very aware of your social and economic contributions to making this the wonderful city that it is. It's true that for all of us, wherever we are from, that our children are our greatest priority and our future. And I know that the organisers of today's event are very keen that young Muslims maintain a sense of their culture and identity and values while growing up here in Scotland. Events like this are an ideal way of bringing together different faiths and cultures in peace, harmony, and understanding. And as we all know, this is a very difficult time for Muslim communities with all the horrendous events taking place in the Middle East. And so I think it's particularly important that we have events such as the one tonight that demonstrate unity and harmony across all faiths and cultures. We all have far more in common than we have our differences. Our Muslim community is proud, law-abiding, respectful, and ambitious, with a real wish for integration and mutual understanding. I wish your alliance well. I hope the conference goes really well. I'm sure it will. And many more successful events take place like this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Fariha. Our first speaker of tonight's event is a man most of you will know, Azam Muhammad. And he's, of course, a man I know very well, and so it's easy for me to see how he operates. It's very clear that he's motivated by values and not ego. He's voluntarily sacrificed much of his time and efforts of the community towards community cohesion. I will start by also emphasizing to stick to time. I can say that with him. I can't get that way with everyone else. So please welcome Brother Azam Muhammad to the stage.
Been panicking a little bit, working day and night with the brother to succeed this event. Bismillah ar-Rahman. Ladies and gentlemen, First Minister, distinguished guests, I welcome you all to the second Peace and Unity Conference in Scotland. And I cannot thank you enough for giving up your evening to be with us tonight. Everyone present here is important to us, leader of our communities, special friends of the society and guests. However, there are a few I must mention due to their long-standing commitment and support. Joanne Lamont, MSP leader of Labour, who has given a lifetime of supporting to the ethnic community. Please welcome Joanne Lamont. Mario Conti, Archbishop Catholic of Glasgow, a man who has given such encouragement and who has elevated the status of our work by this involvement. Please welcome. Dr. Kamal Hilbawi, who has came all the way from Egypt to be with us today. Please welcome Dr. Kamal. And also, I want to mention the many scholars and friends who have came from London just to be with us, as well as representative from the churches across Scotland, including the army chaplains. Please welcome them. We are honored that the First Minister, Alex Salmond, is with us again. We know that is stepping down from office soon. We will never forget the kindness he has shown this community. He is always there when we need him. Please know how much we value the access you have given us to your office, no matter when, and we do not take this for granted. Please welcome the First Minister. Finally, this event would not be possible if we were not for support and advice by Ayatollah Dr. Araki. For your information, he was in Lebanon yesterday, and he traveled to Glasgow today to share this important day. We are in debt to him for making this event possible and look forward, as always, for hearing him speak. Please welcome Ayatollah Araki. We began this important venture last year. As was felt, there was a need today's world to bring together our community with our faith as well as fellow Muslim and keep people in public life to demonstrate that we stand together in peace and unity. We have a fortunate position in Scotland in what we can have close dialogue with the government and Police Scotland to discuss issues that concern us. Earlier today, we had an important meeting, a gathering of some religious leaders from Christian and Muslim faith. It was also a symbolic act to show that we stand together for peace and unity in Scotland. Tomorrow also, there will be a meeting with Muslim leaders. We are working hard to convey the message that in Scotland there are no such tension as there are internationally, and that we work and talk together. It's clear in the Middle East that the extremists have support from powerful and wealthy forces, and in turn abuse in the name of Islam. In fact, the majority of the victims of terrorism in the Middle East and beyond are indeed Muslim. We would like to take this opportunity to remember all the victims of violence be in many countries such as Lebanon, Iraq, Syria, Pakistan, Nigeria, and of course, Gaza. We in Ahlul Bayt Society knew that it was essential to join with our friend, our representative, and organization we work closely with to show that our are all working together for a better country and that our interests are firmly rooted in peace and understanding. This event tonight is the way we can show that. Let us to celebrate the diversity we have here in Scotland. Let the message go out loudly that the extremists will never succeed in dividing us, and they will not succeed in distorting the word of our holy book. Let us to work together for even better understanding and appreciation of the different faiths and background in our proud nation. We encourage all leaders of the Muslim community to not fall of the ideology of dividing and rule, and instead accept differences exist, and that should never lead to physical conflict. I hope you don't mind too much that we have a long list of speakers and a busy program by everyone. We stick to the allotted time, and you will still have time to eat together. Enjoy your evening, and God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Azam. And so moving on to our next speaker, unfortunately, as you'll know in the program, it was Nicola Sturgeon due to speak, but unfortunately, due to mitigating circumstances, she's unable to be with us this evening. But we can have an opportunity to welcome one of the founding members of the Ahlul Bayt Society. He has been a proud supporter of the organization since its inception and has prepared programs for the center for over 15 years. And it's appropriate that we hear a few words from him. So please welcome Abdul Hassan al-Mas'oud, Sheikh Abu Yasa, to the stage.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful. Precious be to Allah, the Lord of the work, and peace be upon Muhammad and his family and all prophet and messengers. Ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to this beautiful meeting, which sends a pleasure to promote hope that we all ready to meet and unify our views to build good path for a happy future to everyone. In my speech, I would like to concentrate on one important and sensitive side, that is the phenomenon of infidelity and the risk of its expansion to countries other than the Middle East, as the infidelity doesn't have country or ID or religious, but claims the name of Islam. And the Islam is innocent from it by all its doctrines. From today, we all need to be obligated to put up a field and a practical agenda to stand against killing, slaughtering, captivity, and bombing. And prograde culture programs that confirm the message of God of the a principle of tolerance, freedom, love, and mutual respect in the principles and moral values. The good news here is the British government and especially the Prime Minister, Mr. Cameron, is discussing an important legalization to monitor the organizations that claim they are Islamic organizations while they support and help terrorism such as Al-Qaeda and ISIS. Finally, I wish everyone success through this meeting, which will be a good contribution to work together and propagate the culture of love and peace for the values of moral. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you.
Thank you for that. That was Abdul Hassan Al Masood, who's one of the founding members of the Ahlul Bayt Society. Now, our next guest for the evening is Dr. Maureen Sear, the current director of Interfaith Scotland. And I'll just give a brief introduction to her. Having completed her PhD in Religious and Cultural Studies from Aberdeen University, she has worked in the field of interfaith relations for over 12 years. Interfaith Scotland is a national organisation which aims to provide a forum for religions to hold dialogues with one another. It's to support wider interfaith dialogue within society, to promote education about interfaith dialogue, and to encourage civic engagement by religions in Scotland and support religion and belief equality in Scotland. Maureen's commitment to interfaith engagement has led her to undertake interfaith activities across Europe and also in America and the Asia Pacific. She has served on the coordinating committee of the European Women of Faith Network and in 2007 received a UK and USA Fulbright International Interfaith Scholarship. This scholarship allowed Maureen to spend time in America contributing to and learning from interfaith work in the US. And prior to working for Interfaith Scotland, Maureen taught sociology and history at the National University of Samoa in the South Pacific. So I welcome Dr. Maureen Sear to enlighten us with her words today. Thank you.
Right Honourable Alex Salmond MSP, First Minister of Scotland, Leadership of the Council, MSPs, Honourable Clergy, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests from here and abroad, and friends, may I take this opportunity to thank you for my invitation to be here with you tonight at the second Peace and Unity event hosted by the Ahlul Bayt Society of Scotland, and to share with you a snippet of the Scottish interfaith story. Now, I may be a bit ambitious in what I would like to say in 5 minutes, but I'm keen to cover 5 things. So in theory, 1 minute per thing. First of all, what is interfaith dialogue? We talk about it, but what is it? Why is it important? And then I want to give you a potted history of interfaith dialogue in Scotland, talk a little of Muslim involvement in interfaith relations in Scotland, and then share a powerful story of interfaith engagement by a Shia Muslim cleric. Interfaith dialogue is about people of different faiths coming to a mutual understanding and respect that allows them to live and cooperate with each other despite their differences. The term refers to cooperation at both the individual and the institutional level. Each party remains true to their own beliefs while respecting the right of others to practice their faith freely. Dialogue seeks to increase mutual understanding and good relations, identify the causes of tension between religions, and build understanding and confidence to overcome or prevent those tensions. It breaks down the barriers and stereotypes which lead to distrust, suspicion, and bigotry. So, all of that in itself says why it's important, but I would like to share two quotations that highlight the urgency and the need for interfaith dialogue. Although these quotes are from a Christian and Muslim perspective, I believe that the sentiments can be extended to good relations between peoples of all faith and none. The first is taken from an address made by Pope Benedict to ambassadors from Muslim countries in 2006, and the second is from a letter signed by 137 Muslim scholars and leaders from across the Muslim world, and it was sent to Christian leaders in 2007. The quote from Pope Benedict said, "Interreligious and intercultural dialogue between Christians and Muslims cannot be reduced to an optional extra. It is, in fact, a vital necessity on which, in large measure, our future depends." The quote from the 137 Muslim scholars stated, "Muslims and Christians together make up over half the world's population. Without peace and justice between these two religious communities, there can be no meaningful peace in the world. The future of the world depends on peace between Muslims and Christians." So, what about the interfaith story in Scotland? Informal interfaith dialogue has occurred in Scotland for well over 100 years, as diverse people have come to make Scotland their home. However, formal interfaith engagement began at the local level in the 1970s. Then in 1999, coinciding with the establishment of the Scottish Parliament, a national interfaith organisation was established, Interfaith Scotland. In 2002, Interfaith Scotland received funding from the Scottish Government, and since that time, I am proud to say that the Scottish Government, including the First Minister, has been fully supportive of interfaith engagement, and they have worked hard to ensure that Scotland is a leader in this field internationally. Throughout the history of interfaith engagement in Scotland, the Muslim community have worked alongside others to establish good relations. This year, I am delighted to say that we will be honouring one of the founding members of Interfaith Scotland, Dr. Salab Al-Taghi from the Muslim Council of Scotland, for his continual and sacrificial endeavours to promote interfaith dialogue. There are local interfaith organisations right across Scotland, right from Shetland to Dumfries and every corner of the country. And in almost every one of them, the local Muslim community is involved and supportive. In Glasgow, there are mosques open their doors regularly to visitors from other traditions, and there is regular dialogue in both Sunni and Shia mosques across Glasgow, particularly between the Muslim, Christian, and Jewish communities. I would like to end by sharing a story of profound interfaith engagement that took place between a leading Iranian Shia cleric and my own faith tradition, the Baha'i faith. Last year, in a symbolic and unprecedented move, Ayatollah Abdul Hamid Masumi Tehrani, a prominent Muslim cleric in Iran, announced that he was gifting to the Baha'is of the world an illuminated work of calligraphy of a paragraph from the writings of Baha'u'llah, the prophet founder of the Baha'i faith. Ayatollah Tehrani stated that he prepared the calligraphy of the verse as a symbolic action to serve as a reminder of the importance of valuing human beings, of peaceful coexistence, of cooperation and mutual support, and avoidance of hatred, enmity, and blind religious prejudice. He hoped that the gift would serve as a reminder of the rich and ancient Iranian tradition of friendship and of its culture of coexistence. At a time when the Baha'i community is undergoing persecution in the land of its birth. This was not only an act of friendship and kindness, but an interfaith act of bravery and solidarity. The work of calligraphy took months to prepare and reads, "Consort with all religions, with amity and concord, that they may inhale from you the sweet fragrance of God." I sincerely hope that tonight we will not only be smelling the sweet fragrance of the anticipated dinner, but that our interaction and friendship will ensure that we inhale from each other the sweet fragrance of God. Thank you.
Thanks, Maureen. I've personally got to know Maureen more and more as the role of organisations such as Interfaith becoming even more critical to facilitate the productive dialogue between communities at all levels. At this juncture, we'd like to introduce to you some of the societies you probably saw on your way in represented by banners and some stalls. You will have noticed the University Ahlul Bayt Society, which caters for inter- and intra-faith events in an academic format. The GAA, the Glasgow Ahlul Bayt Association, which is a community group who have facilitated a whole host of activities, be it educational activity or charitable, such as the annual Imam Hussein blood donation campaign, which is designed to alleviate barriers and get people from ethnic and religious minorities to donate blood. And of course, the Ahlul Bayt Society, which forms the lifeblood for many of events, such as tonight. One such event featured our next guest speaker, who was hosted by the Ahlul Bayt Society at an event with the Archbishop of Sebastia, Patriarch of Jerusalem, Atullah Hanna, who was originally going to be with us tonight as well, but he's got a meeting in America at the moment. I'm really pleased to welcome our next guest speaker. Born in Elgin, he gained degrees in philosophy and theology, both from Gregorian University in Rome. He was ordained priest in the Church of San Marcello al Corso in Rome by Archbishop Luigi Tragelia on 26 October 1958. After completing his studies, he was appointed assistant priest and then became appointed a parish priest in 1962. And he was nominated Bishop of Aberdeen in 1977 and was ordained bishop by His Eminence Gordon Cardinal Gray, Archbishop of St. Andrews in Edinburgh at Aberdeen in 1977. He was appointed Archbishop of Glasgow by Pope John Paul II on January 15, 2002, and took possession of the Archdiocese in 2002 in St. Andrew's Cathedral in Glasgow, where we visited earlier today. Archbishop Conte has been a constant champion of Christian unity, a supporter of ever closer engagement with the universities in Glasgow, and has been strong in his upholding of moral and social justice issues, most recently the plight of asylum seekers. The Archbishop's contribution to Scottish life has been recognised by honorary doctorates from the universities of Aberdeen and Glasgow. He's a Fellow of the Royal Society of Edinburgh, and he's the bearer of the highest civilian honour of the Italian Republic, the Solidarietà Italiana. The Archbishop was, as I said, recently with us in the Ahlul Bayt Society, so we please welcome Archbishop to the stage.
Distinguished representatives of the Muslim worldwide family and distinguished representatives of our civic society, ladies and gentlemen. I'm delighted indeed to be here and very grateful for the invitation to say a few words. Next year, the Catholic Church celebrates the 50th anniversary of a very important document. It is called Nostra Aetate, which means in our time. And it came out of the Second Vatican Council, a moment when the Catholic Church reflected on its relationship to the wider world. This included our relationship with people of faith. During the Council, the Fathers stressed that we are all brothers and sisters with common hopes and common fears, struggles and concerns. We have come from the same God and will return to that same God at the end of life. The Council encouraged us to take to heart the concerns of the world and its peoples. And I quote from the document because I think telling you what it says in words that are not its own perhaps will reduce something of its tremendous sincerity. The Church has this exhortation for her sons. Prudently and lovingly, through dialogue and collaboration with the followers of other religions, and in witness of Christian faith and life, acknowledge, preserve, and promote the spiritual and moral goods found among these men, and we would say today, and women, as well as the values in their society and culture. That's a very strong exhortation to the members of the Catholic Church. And as I say, next year we'll be celebrating the 50th anniversary of that document, which was signed on October the 28th in 1965. It goes on, upon the Muslims, the Church looks with esteem. They adore one God, living and enduring, merciful and all-powerful, maker of heaven and earth and speaker to men. They strive to submit wholeheartedly even to his inscrutable decrees, just as did Abraham. They await the day of judgment when God will give each man his due, and I suppose each woman too, we would say, after raising him up. Consequently, they prize the moral life and give worship to God, especially through prayer, almsgiving, and fasting. So that is an expression of the esteem of the Catholic Church for those of a great faith that is related to us through the origins of our faith as Abrahamic communities. Although in the course of the centuries many quarrels and hostilities have arisen, said the document, between Christians and Muslims, this most sacred synod urges all to forget the past and to strive sincerely for mutual understanding. On behalf of all mankind, let them make common cause of safeguarding and fostering social justice, moral values, peace, and freedom. And ladies and gentlemen, this we have been trying to do through the work of interreligious dialogue, as we've just heard from Maureen. That group has been supported by our Scottish Parliament, and we must acknowledge, therefore, in the presence of the First Minister, that commitment of our Parliament to interreligious dialogue. There is a Pontifical Council for Interreligious Dialogue at the Vatican, and those of you from the major world faiths will have received greetings from it on your special festivals. Almost every country in the world has a Bishop's Committee for Interreligious Dialogue, as we do here in Scotland. Part of our work is to educate Catholics in the importance of good interfaith relations and encourage them to participate in initiatives such as Scottish Interfaith Week. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to acknowledge painfully, however, the ongoing hostilities in the Middle East, in which Christians are being caught up, as well as their neighbors, where the Muslim, Kurds, or minority groups of faith, in what appears to be a power struggle for domination in the region. The great blasphemy is on the part of those who claim to act in God's name and who justify their barbarous acts as the just deserts of those who do not share their faith or their cause. Attempts to force conversions as a condition for staying in the land which for centuries they have counted as their own, as their home, is utterly appalling and contrary to the universally acknowledged rights of men and women. And so I say we cannot turn a blind eye to what is all too readily seen by means of modern global communications, nor a deaf ear to the cries of the poor. At the heart of all genuine religion, and notably in our own, is the call to justice and compassion, And while the example of our own respect for one another and our peaceable intentions carry their own powerful message, it is incumbent on all of us to call on our co-religionists to desist from actions, however motivated, which offend not only against human dignity, but also against the holiness of God. I therefore am delighted to be among those tonight invited to be guests in something which is dedicated to peace and to justice. Thank you.
Thank you for that. That was the Archbishop Mario Conti who was sharing his views with us tonight. So thank you for your views there. Just before I go on to the next speaker, just got a quick announcement to make. We understand that it is the time for the Isha prayer at the moment, but we would request everybody to wait till the end of the program, and then inshallah you can pray your Isha prayer at that point. Thank you. Now, our next guest speaker has come all the way from Egypt via Lebanon to be here with us today. Dr. Kamal al-Helbawi was born in the Governorate of Menufia, Egypt in 1939 and joined the Muslim Brotherhood at the age of 12. He served as the official spokesman of the Muslim Brotherhood in the West from 1995 to 1997, and following his graduation from Cairo University in 1996, Dr. Helbawi worked in the field of manpower, planning and training with central training organizations in Egypt. After settling in the United Kingdom in 1994, Dr. Helbawi helped create the Muslim Council of Britain, which I'm sure everybody is already familiar with, and the Muslim Association of Britain, and he became its first founding president. He continues to be among the board of councillors for the MCB, and he is currently the chair of the Centre for the Study of Terrorism and an advisor to the Global Civilization Study Centre. He is also a member of the founding member of the recently launched 2008 Islamic University Forum, which seeks to unite Muslims in both Sunni and Shia communities. He is an academic with lots of work abroad, which includes places like Sokoto, Saudi Arabia, and Afghanistan. Dr. Helbawi has extensively traveled and lectured in many countries and has written and translated more than 20 books and many articles, especially on Afghanistan, the Islamic movement, and the Muslim world affairs. So I'd like to welcome Dr. Kamal al-Helbawi to the stage. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening to the first minister and the archbishop and all dignitaries. This is one of the most august occasions. I visited Glasgow many times since 40 years, sometimes to teach, sometimes to attend a conference or a meeting. I have many friends in Glasgow, all over. I do acknowledge that I am indebted to a good part of my knowledge and experience in UK. 17 years I stayed in UK in exile. I was trying to bring reform, peaceful reform in Egypt and the Arab world during 23 years, all outside Egypt. But some of our rulers were and still very stupid and foolish not to believe in democracy and not to believe in equality and not to believe in peace and unity. And this is why we are very delighted to accept the invitation from Ahlul Bayt. Thanks for Brother Azzam and Ahmed and my daughter here and everyone for organizing such a very interesting conference with the support and the help from the World Forum for Proximity. Unfortunately, in the West, and I noticed that in many places, from America to Australia to Canada, the media has participated to some extent in tarnishing the image of religion and Islam in particular. They gave stories and introduced Abu Hamza sometime. I think everyone remember Abu Hamza and Abu Qatada as good scholars of Islam. And they were the most ignorant people in Islam and in religion. Islam never showed any violence, especially to communities and societies who gave access to freedom and democratic values as well. They are all human values. The Arabs, especially in Egypt, and the Muslims, especially in Iran, many scholars around the world. At least you have three. All of you know Sir Magdi Yaqub, a Christian from Egypt, the most famous cardiologist in the world. And he is now doing a good job after he learned and was educated in America and in UK. He's doing a very good job now in Egypt as a charity, treating poor people. No difference between Muslims and the Christians and Jews. You remember Ahmed Zewail as well, who is a Nobel laureate, in addition to others like Farouk El-Baz, thousands and thousands. And that's why we are indebted to universities like Glasgow, Aberdeen, Oxford, Cambridge, SOAS, or London University, and many others. I would like to say, to achieve peace and unity in the world, we have to commit ourselves to the humanistic values that many of them you can see in every religion, in Christianity, in Judaism, in Islam. That's why our speaker, Maureen, can give a good image about religion, not ignorant people like Abu Hamza or Abu Qatada. I would like to say that we have one enemy at present, all of us. In Scotland, in Ireland, in England, in Wales, in France, in America, in Canada, in Egypt, in Iran, in Syria, in Iraq, we have one enemy, that is Daesh at present. And unfortunately, again, the media is describing them as the Islamic State. And this is a fallacy. This is a very sad image. No Islamic State or Christian state committed to Christianity or Jewish state committed to Judaism will do whatever we see in Iraq at present, or in Syria, or on the borders, or in Palestine, or in other areas. The religion, as the Archbishop said, We came from one God and we are returning to one God. The religion, all religion, came to bring peace and unity, not to bring whatever we see at present in politics or in social and economic areas in different parts of the world. I stayed in the Muslim Brotherhood 60.5 years as a member and as a leader and as a speaker, speaking in their name. But I resigned after I returned to Egypt, and I started to take care and help in avoiding the destiny that we see in Iraq or Syria or Libya or Somalia or in Yemen. And this is the most important point we are working so far in Egypt. I was the vice president of the 50 members committee that made the recent constitution in Egypt. And for the first time, I think in the Arab world, we made a very good advance on two special points. One of them, the full equality between men and women. The full equality between, for the first time, in the economic field, in political field, in social field, and the cultural field. And the second achievement that I was insisting on, the full equality between Muslims and the Christians in Egypt, and it was agreed upon. Not to take much of your time, I learned a lot in UK during the years of exile. I am indebted to your society, and I invite every one of you to come to Egypt. Welcome, to return the favor to you again. Thank you very much, and many thanks for Azzam and Ahmed and the girls and Ahl al-Bayt Society, and to the World Forum for Proximity to make this event a successful one. It's one of the best events I attended in my life. Thank you very much.
That was Dr. Kamal Al-Halbawi, and always a pleasure to listen to such a great personality. And I'm sure that everybody would agree that that was a powerful speech, laden with important points that we can all learn from, and especially the point between distinguishing between what is reality and what the media reports as reality, which is really important to get the true gist of what anything means. For example, the Deen of Islam, which he elaborated on, is about peace, but what the media reports is contrary to that. So really enjoyed that. So thank you for your time, Dr. Halbawi. Now, our next guest is a familiar face in politics and is the current leader of the Scottish Labour Party, Johann Lamont. Born in Glasgow in 1957, making you older than you are, sorry about that. Into a Gaelic-speaking family. She obtained her master's at the University of Glasgow and a postgraduate teaching qualification from Jordan Hill College of Education. Prior to her entry into politics, Johann worked as a teacher for 20 years. Her last post was based in the Education Social Work Project in the Castlemilk area of Glasgow. Her career in politics has gone from strength to strength since joining the Labour Party as a student and eventually becoming chairperson of the Scottish Labour Party in 1993. Johann is the Scottish Labour and Cooperative Member for the Scottish Parliament constituency of Glasgow Pollock. And as Azam mentioned, she has always supported the Muslim community, for which we are always grateful to her. And it is a pleasure to have her with us here today. So Johanne Lamont, please. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. I hope you're very poor at arithmetic and haven't worked out just quite how ancient I am, but thank you very much for that very warm welcome. Distinguished guests, it's a great privilege for me to have the opportunity to be here with you tonight. And I want to place on record my thanks to Mr. Assam Mohammed and all those at Al Albat for the fantastic work that they do. I was brought up in Glasgow. My mother was a Christian, and she had a very simple faith and a message that shaped my thinking as a child. She always said, we're all equal in the sight of God. And I think all of us here tonight know the importance of that sense of equality and respect for people across our communities. She also said another thing which gave me an important word of advice: never compete with a preacher in the talking stakes. So I recognise that already the fantastic contributions we have heard. It's been a great privilege for me to be able to hear the thinking and the sense and importance of where we are in the world today, and I'm sure many of you across the room have shared in just the privilege of listening to those speeches. And so the lesson I take from that is that I shall be very brief indeed. I bring greetings on behalf of the Scottish Labour Party. I'm delighted that my colleague Anas Sarwar, my deputy, is also here. And we are very committed, absolutely committed, to the sense and importance of interfaith and respect for faith across our communities. We know that across our communities, people with faith are very often at the very centre of seeking to heal, to look after those who are troubled, and making a difference to people who have little or nothing in our communities. And I thank all of you for all that you do. And it is wonderful to be here at an event that's so described as seeking peace and unity. Wonderful, inspirational words that should be at the forefront for all of us. We know the importance of recognising what our differences are, recognising those differences, but also celebrating what we have in common. And in the political field, I know that very often we look to what makes us different. The First Minister and I perhaps spend a little too much time arguing about what we disagree on. But I know that he and I, that our parties and people across all of the political parties in the Scottish Parliament and across the United Kingdom yearn for a Scotland and a world where there is respect for faith, the respect for difference, a respect for difference in cultures, a desire to ensure that people are not discriminated against because they come from one particular faith group, another. We know that how important it is to bring people together, and it's a privilege for me, along with the First Minister, to do what I can across politics to make sure that our Scotland is a safe and respectful place. We also know the importance of vigilance, the importance of speaking out against discrimination, against racism, and against bigotry, and drawing confidence from the fact that there is dialogue across our faith communities that makes that desire for community stronger still. And we also know in this world where things across, particularly in the Middle East, are tense, that it is as if the world is holding its breath, that we fear what we see on our televisions and desire with all our hearts that there is peace across the world itself. And we should do whatever we can to hold to the values of peace and unity as described here, of looking to what we share in common, which perhaps by our desire will also inform the actions of those who will be making the decisions about how we do create a safer world for us all. And I want to express my solidarity for those of you within this hall and across our city and across Scotland who have a particular anxiety and concern because it may be family that you see are caught up in these terrible circumstances, and our solidarity and sense of community goes with you. So it's my privilege to be here, to attest to the desire to live in a Glasgow and a Scotland where we hold to these values of compassion, of desire for peace, a desire for unity, respectful for the beliefs of others, but always looking to find those things that we can hold in common. Can I thank the organisers very much for all they do, not just in organising these events, but everything that they do across our communities, everyone of faith in here and of no faith, who reach out to make a difference, to look to how we can come together, because I believe in these troubled times, that is how we can achieve those values that we all hold dear, of looking to what we have in common, seeking peace and unity. And can I thank you again for the privilege to be here. Thank you.
Taptalia, Joanne, special thanks to you. And quite rightly, Joanne mentioned Anas Sarwar, who's also been a key, integral part in terms of supporting the Ahlul Bayt Society and community. And of course, at this juncture, we should mention, of course, all the MPs, MSPs, councillors and Baileys. By your mere presence tonight, you are showing your support, so thank you very much indeed. Our penultimate guest speaker is our special guest and has been Scotland's First Minister for 89 months. Hopefully the maths is good there. His background originally in economics is well documented. He has established himself as a consummate politician, someone who's always shown his unwavering support to leading initiatives to tackle whether it be discrimination, sectarianism, and promoting the banner of unity amongst the people of Scotland and beyond. When he announced his resignation of post of First Minister, he did so with a class that even his critics could not begrudge. So without further ado, please welcome the Right Honourable First Minister of Scotland, Alex Salmond.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, Assalamu alaikum. I think it is important for this conference that Shia and Sunni sit together as we discuss these important events along with the other great faith communities of Scotland. It's a recognition of the importance of the Peace and Unity Conference, as is the presence of so many civic leaders from across the political parties in Scotland, the presence of our police service. It is a recognition that this conference is meaningful and important. We live, as has been said by other speakers, in an extremely troubled world where millions of people across the Middle East and elsewhere are in constant jeopardy from sectarianism, from bigotry, from the bitter harvest of failed interventions, from the inability of understanding, and from the assault of terrorist organizations. It is therefore of huge importance that we, in our corner of the world, try to promote the peace and unity which this conference stands for. As in so many things, that the impact of terrorism was brought home to people across the UK recently by the murder of David Haines and Alan Henning. And I was struck not just by the outpouring of support, the condemnation from mosques across Scotland, not least in the city of Perth, where David was from, but also I was struck last week by the letter in the Guardian newspaper from Alan Henning's widow Barbara and David Haines' brother Michael, which urged people to find a single act of unity, one single gesture, one act, one moment to draw people together. It was a moving epistle from the families of people who had suffered grievously and a lesson to us all. In truth, of course, I suspect there isn't one moment. There are many moments, many occasions to find that peace and unity, of which this conference is undoubtedly one such moment. A number of speakers have made the point about the descriptions that are used in the media and how poisonous and difficult these descriptions become. Last Sunday, I was at the memorial service in Belfast Hall to the Reverend Ian Paisley, somebody who I regarded as a friend, somebody whose political career started in great controversy, but towards the end of his political career found it within himself the compassion and ability to reach beyond the previous sectarian boundaries in order to establish a coexistence which has helped bring substantial measure of peace to Northern Ireland. Now, in that time, that long period of troubles in Northern Ireland, I don't think that terrorism was ever described as Catholic terrorism or Protestant terrorism. It was described as Republican terrorism or Loyalist terrorism. And therefore, it is perfectly legitimate for speakers to point out that the casual, easy, pathetic description in the media of Muslim terrorism is not just an inaccuracy, but also damages our ability to communicate to people the level of understanding that's required in order to overcome these difficulties. Maureen gave us earlier on a good description of the work of Interfaith Scotland and how Scotland is held as an exemplar, and I hope we are, in terms of that understanding between faiths. It's something I hope we can hold on to, promote. It's something that I hope we can spread in a greater canvas. It is important that we recognize that we do not live by any means in a perfect society, and it's also important that we recognize our own scars and our own problems for the past. But it also is encouraging that across civic and political society in Scotland there is an understanding of the need for our own eternal vigilance in order to overcome these difficulties. We have in Scotland what is called in the judicial system aggravated charges. That is to say, a criminal offence which is committed is regarded as aggravated if it targets a particular section of the community. So if people are targeted because of their gender or their sexual preference or their religion, that's regarded as an aggravated offence. And the penalties for that offence are greater than for an offence which wasn't such targeted. That means that we have a very close examination of the state of our own relations, and I'm pleased to say that despite the major difficulties and troubles and difficulties that the media promote and also exist across the world, we can take a comfort from the fact that there has been a drop, not an increase, but a drop in religiously aggravated offences against Muslims in Scotland over the last year. Still too high a level, but nonetheless encouraging that the communities of Scotland have not been drawn in to some of the antagonism that's been so widely reported. It was encouraging, for example, if we go back to 2007 when there was an attack, a terrorist attack in Glasgow Airport, that the following day I was able to take to the Central Mosque in Glasgow, not just our police service to explain and to reassure the Muslim population of Scotland, but representatives of every major denomination and faith in Scotland, to express solidarity with the Muslim community in Scotland and to recognise that they weren't responsible for terrorism being inflicted from elsewhere. And therefore, we have within the fabric of our nation a strong, substantial bond of trust and association of which Interfaith Scotland is a significant part. But then we ask ourselves, what more can we do, and what more can we do to promote this? We meet here for this second conference in Celtic Park. The last time well, I suspect not the last time the leader of the council was in this stadium, but nonetheless the last time I was in the stadium was for the opening ceremony of the Commonwealth Games, where we brought together 71 nations and territories from across the Commonwealth of Nations for a festival of sport and culture and understanding, which was a magnificent success for this great city of Glasgow and for the country of Scotland. But it was a substantial success and for many, many reasons, but I particularly liked in the Athletes' Village the fact that the great religions of the world came together to offer for the athletes, competitors and their supporting cast the opportunity to practice their faith in an atmosphere of unity and brotherhood. We should be proud of our ability to do that and deploy it, but to recognize that there is always more that we can and should do to promote that understanding on a wider canvas. It is possible to be an exemplar without falling into was like us mentality. It is possible to recognize our obligations to wider humanity without claiming perfection ourselves, which we are very, very far from. I'm interested in two aspects of Scotland as regards this. Back in 2011, on St Andrew's Day, our patron saint, our national day, St Andrew's Day, the 30th of November, we launched Scotland's DNA project. And this was an examination of the DNA profile of Scotland, and now we know more about Scotland's composition of Scotland's DNA than perhaps any other nation on earth. And what we have discovered thus far in the DNA project of Scotland is that we have no less than 100 different types of DNA from Europe, Asia, and Africa have come to compose and to make up the nation of Scotland. Indeed, if you look at early Christian chronicles, you'll find that coming to Scotland in the northwest corner of Europe was described as coming to the very ends of the earth. In other words, in these times, it did seem in medieval times there was nowhere left to go once you'd reached the northwest corner of Europe. But for whatever reason, from Asia, from Africa, from across Europe, well over 100 strands of DNA came together to compose the nation of Scotland. I like to think of it as a tartan. A tartan, the national cloth of Scotland, has many threads of different colours, but comes together to make up a distinctive, unique thread of great attraction and great value. So in that complex DNA of our country, and in that fantastic national tartan of Scotland, and in our ability, while recognising our faults and failings, our ability to come together in conferences such as this, discuss how we can promote that peace, unity, and understanding in our own nation, and also, I hope, give some promotion and succour and help and encouragement to those who seek to promote it in much more difficult circumstances. There lies perhaps our acts of unity, our simple gestures, our acts and our moment, which can convey a greater significance. So as First Minister of Scotland, it gives me enormous pleasure to address this conference, to salute the organisers and those who have worked so hard to bring it together. Our distinguished guests have described it as one of the most important conferences that they have ever attended. And therefore, it is with that encouragement that we seek to do more to promote such conferences, to give encouragement to those who mobilise in this effort, and that peace and unity shall befall and bless the nation of Scotland and all humankind. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, First Minister. More on that later, hopefully. And to our final main speaker of the evening is an author of dozens of books in many languages, Persian, Arabic, and English. He holds a Doctor of Philosophy at the University of Portsmouth, the founder of the Islamic Centre in England, and founded many Islamic centres across, including Manchester, Birmingham, Newcastle, and Leeds, and a few others. He was also involved in the setup of Islamic studies departments and advanced studies in the universities of SOAS, Cambridge, Oxford, and London. Dr. Mohsin Araki is now the head of the World Forum for Proximity of Islamic Schools of Thought, which has a proud history of interfaith dialogue, intra-faith dialogue, and has been bringing together united Muslims from all different backgrounds for many years under the banner of peace, love, and unity. Please welcome to the stage Ayatollah Dr. Mohsin Araki.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. I would firstly thank all the individuals who have worked hard for organizing this conference, especially the brother Azam. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant them ever more success, inshallah. According to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has stated in the Holy Quran, all the divine religions been sent to the people for the purpose of establishing justice. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in chapter Al-Hadid, verse 25, لقد أرسلنا رسلنا بالبينات وأنزلنا معهم الكتاب والميزان ليقوم الناس بالقسط. Indeed, we have sent our messengers with clear proofs and revealed with them the book and the balance, that mankind may keep up justice. In addition to this, according to what has been stated in the Holy Quran, all the prophets brought one single religion to mankind and called upon mankind to practice oneness and empathy. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states in chapter Shura, verse 13, شرع لكم من الدين ما وصى به نوحا والذي أوحينا إليك وما وصينا به إبراهيم وموسى وعيسى أن أقيموا الدين ولا تتفرقوا فيه. He, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, has ordained for you the same religion which He ordained for Nuh, and that which we have revealed to you, O Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and that which we ordained for Abraham, Moses, and Jesus, saying you should establish religion and make no division in it. Elsewhere, in the Holy Quran, disagreements and divisions between religions has been noted as a result of oppression, distortion, and those who cause division in religions are considered as offenders. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states in chapter Al Imran, verse 19, إن الدين عند الله الإسلام وما اختلف الذين أوتوا الكتاب إلا من بعد ما جاءهم العلم بغيا بينهم. Truly, the religion with Allah is Islam. Those who were given the scripture did not differ oppressively except after knowledge and come to them. And in chapter Rum, verse 21 to 22, he says, ولا تكونوا من المشركين من الذين فرقوا دينهم وكانوا شيعا كل حزب بما لديهم فرحون. And be not of all mushrikeen, polytheists, of those who split up their religion, sects, each sect in what which is with it. In this verse, division in religion and the dividing of the people of religion into different sects has been considered as polytheism, and it has been strongly rejected. Wars, bloodshed, social oppression, and discriminations all stem from distortion of divine religions and have caused sectarianism and enmity between people, and especially the followers of divine religions. Today, we face the phenomenon of sectarianism and war amongst the followers of different religions and faiths. If this situation continues, it will soon spread all across the world and will turn the communities of mankind into a battleground of war, oppression, and bloodshed. Unfortunately, a few politically influential capitalists and wealthy entities in some countries keep intensifying the division and discord among different faiths in order to profit from the sale of armed fighting groups for fighting groups. Today, the humanitarian duty of all of us is to correct the misunderstandings between religions by familiarizing ourselves with the true teachings of different religions and faiths, so that we can prevent the distortion of the true teachings of different religions, and to eliminate any grounds for creating discord or conflict among religions. Furthermore, through cooperation and collaboration, we must prevent and reject those profiteers who wish to profit from selling weapons or seek to dominate the wealth for other nations by means of causing sedition and division among nations. It is necessary to establish combined universities of religions and faiths, which promote and teach the correct and true teachings, beliefs, and thoughts of followers of different religions and faiths from reliable sources of each religion. Also, it is a necessity to establish groups and gatherings comprising of the followers of different religions for the purpose of resolving problems and disputes which emerge in certain regions. In addition to these, the establishment of councils consisting of leaders and scholars of different religions and faiths for the purpose of cooperation and solidarity between different religions and faiths is absolutely essential. The World Forum of Proximity of Islamic Schools of Thoughts is prepared to support all the mentioned initiatives. We are prepared to provide our services, our thoughts, and our felicities to those who make efforts towards creating unity and proximity between different religions and faiths. We hope that this conference takes effective steps towards this cause, and thank you all. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thanks once again to Ayatollah Dr. Mohsen Araki, for without his support, events such as this would not even happen. I've got a note here to mention, as you will have noticed from the list of speakers, that Assistant Chief Constable Rory Nicholson was due to speak, but unfortunately due to operational circumstances, he is unable to attend tonight. But as I know Rory firsthand, and he's got representatives from the Scottish Strathclyde Police are with us today, he's always shown his openness to engage with the community as part of his work in organised crime and counter-terrorism. So please show your appreciation for Rory in his absence. The conference is almost officially over. In terms of now, what we have is a statement to be read. that will unite us all in a message on behalf of the organizers of tonight's conference. To read the statement, we have Sheikh Rihan from Minhaj al-Quran, and who has also worked in the Muslim Council of Scotland, who again we must thank for their continual support. So please welcome Sheikh Rihan Ahmed to the stage to read the statement. Thank you.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Distinguished guests, brothers and sisters in faith and humanity, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. I have been given the opportunity to read the statement for Peace and Unity Conference 2014. Recent decades have seen the world's great faiths and cultural communities torn apart by misunderstandings and mistrust to such an unfortunate degree that people of good intentions towards each other are now compelled to declare their unequivocal rejection of the beliefs and activities that divide them, and their unreserved embrace of the beliefs and activities that unite them. We address our call for peace, unity, tolerance, and respect for all people everywhere, but especially to the political and religious leaders and decision makers, as well as to scholars, teachers, and journalists. While we recognize the unique differences between faiths, cultures, and community, and we recognize that all people gain happiness and identity from what they consider to be unique, we declare that all humans everywhere possess immutable rights and values that transcend all political boundaries and philosophies and are inherent and important in all religious faiths and creeds. Jews, Muslims, Christians, and those of other religions, along with, of course, with all those people who do not identify themselves with any faith, must enjoy the same civil and legal rights and freedoms and be able to live in peace and harmony, and must pursue peace only through mutually respectful engagement and dialogue. We reject unequivocally all forms of terrorism, because at the heart of all religions is a belief in the sanctity of lives of the innocent. The indiscriminate nature of terrorism, which has in recent years killed far more civilians and other non-combatants than combatants, is un-Islamic, un-Judaic, un-Christian, and indeed incompatible with the true teachings of all faiths. We unequivocally reject and disown, condemn all forms of terrorism committed in the name of Islam, just as we reject and condemn all manifestations of terrorism in the name of other religions or causes. Terrorism is never a legitimate and honorable act of war, but is always a cowardly act of indiscriminate murder. We support efforts by international agencies, governments, and communities to protect the world's citizens from terrorism, and we commit ourselves to assisting in the de-radicalization of those groups and individuals who might mistakenly believe that their religion tolerates indiscriminate murder and wanton violence. Equally, we reject any attempt to sow discord at interfaith level as well as intrafaith level. The people responsible for making defamatory remarks about each group should be brought to account and not be attributed as a representative to any other group. Finally, we call for the promotion of human rights, fundamental freedoms, equality between men and women, and the cardinal values of humanity, such as reconciliation, forgiveness, generosity, and solidarity. This is the message which we have conveyed through this Peace and Unity Conference, and I pray in the court of Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He gives the ability to the organizers and everyone here to truly understand the true teachings of Islam and convey the true teachings of Islam. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sheikh Rihan, for that statement. That brings an end to the formal proceedings of tonight's event.